Welcome to the Soulful Parenting Podcast, hosted by Ambra Redrick.
Welcome back to the Soulful Parenting Podcast. My name is Ambra Redrick, and when I am not serving as the CEO of Teen Hype, I get the opportunity to sit on the sofa and talk to amazing parents. And today is not an exception. Today I'm sitting on the couch with Daddy Corey. How you doing?
Good. How
Thank
are
you
you?
for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I think you're an amazing dad. I do. I think you have like perfect children. I'm like, oh my God, these boys are the best ever.
Well, I appreciate that. That's quite a description. But thank you.
Tell me about your family.
So wife Marcy Oliver, amazing mom, amazing wife.
How long you been married?
25 years.
Where'd y'all meet?
High school.
Oh,
Yeah, Southfield High School.
really?
Class of '93.
All right. Shout
Yeah.
out Southfield.
Yeah, met in ninth grade,
Okay.
history class. Off and on all through high school.
Okay.
You know how it is, your kids.
Mhm.
And, college things got a little more serious. And then
Okay.
after college, we got married.
Y'all went to the same university?
No.
Okay.
She went to Wayne State. I went to ITT Tech
Okay.
for a little bit. And
Okay.
kind of worked and then went back and that kind of thing and finally graduated.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. So did you always know that you wanted children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. The
Okay.
answer to that question is yes. We didn't know when or what it would look like. So,
Okay.
we got married pretty young. We were 25.
Okay.
But we didn't have children until we were 30. So it
Okay.
was 5 years in there where we just lived it up.
Okay.
Did
Good
a lot
stuff.
of irresponsible things and
No.
spent a lot of money,
That's what you're supposed to do.
non-planning and all that stuff. And then, got serious.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I'm curious about what kind of dad you are.
Okay. Okay. It evolves.
Okay.
For me, you gotta have to learn. I have to learn. I had to learn how to be a dad, right? So
Okay.
you draw from your influences. So, I was fortunate enough to have both my grandfathers.
Mhm.
Have my father. Bunch of uncles, who all were very influential, in my, growing up in formidable years. So, so you start there. And then, when you find yourself with children or beginning to plan or nesting, whatever they want to call it, you start getting into it and then you got to learn how to do it, right? It's like riding a bike with training wheels. You just have to learn how to do it. And then you take the training wheels off and you go for it. I tried to be, initially I was, for most of the boys' lives, I was very protective,
Mhm.
Some would say overprotective.
Okay.
But, I did some things as a kid, teenager that I said, I'm not letting my kid do. I don't want my kid doing that,
Okay.
But there comes a point where you have to say, well, some things they've got to experience.
Mhm.
They've got to hit their heads. They've got to, touch the hot stove,
Mhm.
for themselves. And that's where I find myself now, at least half of the time,
Yeah.
and there's, you can't parent two kids the same way.
Mm.
And, it's another thing I had to learn, right?
Mm.
One kid will, respond one way, the other kid will respond a totally different way, right? So you got to adjust. And so that's where I find myself, just learning to adjust to the kid or my sons and trying to meet them where they are and parenting the way that customized that they're going to respond and understand. So I try to be very fluent or pliable where I can kind of meet the situation.
Are you the disciplinarian?
Probably not.
Who's most likely to say no?
I-
I'm scared of Marcy because
Yeah.
Marcy is quiet.
Well,
Quiet people scare me.
Yeah.
The ones that'll
Yeah,
slight you.
she's
I
predictable.
love you, Marcy. But I'm scared.
She's almost predictable.
Okay.
But I think I can be unpredictable.
Okay. So if they're trying to get something, they might come to you first?
They'll come to me first.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I might say, okay, yeah, go ahead. And then I might say, I have the question, right? And I have one who will sit there, my youngest will sit there and negotiate.
He's a negotiator.
He'll sit there and he will, if he doesn't get his way, he'll disappear. 5 minutes later, he's coming back with
some data,
points, data, action items, questions. The oldest one's like, all right, well, okay, it is what it is. I'll just find something else to do, or, that's the difference, right?
Wow.
So, but the disciplinary part, I gotta honestly say it depends on the situation, But yeah, Marcy's she can put it down.
So this season is about being a champion for your kids. And we're talking to all kind of parents who have just shown up like that. Who was your first champion?
As a child, I would say my father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I had my grandparents. My grandfather. What I didn't like what my dad said, I go find my grandfather. Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll tell me what I want to hear. But most times he didn't. Right. But the delivery was different.
Yeah.
So,
what did you take from all of those men to like mix up to kind of come up with your recipe for parenting?
Just providing. Like most, if not all, of the men in my family were damn good providers, right? And I know that's not the case for everybody, right? And I've learned that as I've gotten older. But that's number one. Number two would be most of these men worked, right? And they had a work ethic. They were at different levels of income, right? So I was happy to see a bunch of different levels of income, a bunch of different professions. So those are two things, and most of them, were married and had children, and had good relationships, right? And there was a couple that didn't, but I also learned from that, right? Because this is what could happen. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. From my perspective, like you never know the ins and outs of anybody's relationship, but just watching how these men dealt with the goods and the bads of their relationships was good. And that was kind of, even if it was negative, it was somewhat of a champion type situation.
When have you had to show up as a champion for the boys?
Frequently.
Okay.
Like that's ongoing.
Okay.
To me, they find themselves in situations a lot where they need somebody in their corner, right? The first time my oldest got a ticket, right? Like he freaking out, calling me on the phone, like, Dad, I just got put over all the police. He's going a mile a minute. So, he's getting out the car, trying to get back, like all this stuff. I'm like, dude, stay in the car. Be quiet. Okay, put police on the phone. Let me talk to the police. So I had to kind of figure out what was going on. And then I went with him to court, had to be there next to him in court. And walk them through what to say, and you know, and of course, the kind of dad I am, I'm trying to interject and say, so I had to listen to this judge reprimand me in front of my son. Like, no, you're not the one that was driving. I need to talk to him. Okay, all right.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think that's good too. Like, dad is reprimanded at times. We're in court, right? You got to do what the judge says.
Yeah.
So dad has a boss. Dad has to march to a tune. So don't think that us telling you what to do goes away. It
Mhm.
doesn't, right? If you own your own company, you still have to march to a customer soon. Like it's a give and take, you know, for your whole life, right? So you got to understand that. So, but yeah, I'm always, my youngest plays baseball, right? So we had to kind of dial him in and be a champion for him and help explain to some of the coaches and at times, look, this guy's passionate. You got to look past his quirks. This is what he really wants to do. I hope you can see where he's coming from. Some teachers you got to deal with. Look, yeah, he's a student. He's the one getting these grades, but I think you need to understand his point of view. And let me help you understand his point of view, kind of situation. Lately I've kind of we find ourselves in their mom and I, you know, doing just that,
Mm.
you know. So I've learned that just because they're growing and getting older and it doesn't go away. You gotta in my mind, you gotta always kind of be there. Hell, I call my dad to this day, if I got a question, hey man, what should I do? Right. And I don't take that for granted. I'm 50 years old and still have a dad that I can call. Um, so I lean on that, and that's I try to be a champion for them, and not just my kids. Their friends will come over,
Yeah.
and eat up all my food, and but but they have questions, right? They
While they're eating up the
why they
food.
eating up my food, and the boys, yeah, boys are a trip, man. We forget as men, we forget we were once there, and it wasn't that long ago. But like damn, I barbecued yesterday. I put some stuff on the grill, and I woke up this morning, it's gone. Like everything is gone. But sorry,
No.
I didn't-
I've been there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
how do you balance knowing when you should champion versus teaching them to champion for themselves?
that's hard. That's hard, and I don't know. Like it's situational.
Mm.
I'm just being honest. Like
Yeah.
you. Okay, so this morning, like another example. So today was, I told you he's interning. So today was his day to go into the office. And he's interning in Midtown. And he says, I said, son, what time you got to be at work? 9 o'clock. I said, well, it's 8. Don't you think you ought to get in the shower? Yeah, but I got to touch up my hair. Okay, cool. Touch up your hair, take a shower. You got an hour. So if you want to be there an hour early, you want to be there half an hour early, 15 minutes at the latest, right? Okay, yeah, Dad, it only takes me 15 minutes to get there. So I was like, all right, look, man, you're going towards downtown. There's going to be traffic. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. You got to be prepared. Oh, yeah, I got it, Dad. What is it? 8:15, 8:30, he's in the shower. I'm like, dude,
You see where this is going.
you're pushing it, right? So 8:30, he's putting his clothes on. I'm like, so right then and there, I tell myself, time out. Do I stay on his butt or do I let him mess around and find out? Like, does he need to figure it out for himself? Does he need to go into that office and they looking at him like he's crazy because he's 5, 10 minutes late? Or do I keep pushing him? So it- that's, you know, that's where I get caught
Mm.
as a parent.
Yeah.
Do I let him bump his head? Do I let him find out on his own? Or do I just keep putting my foot on his throat and keep pushing him, right? And so that's what I don't know. That's
Mhm.
what I'm trying to figure out. That's my learning curve
Yeah.
as of today.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it
and
easier for the younger one, or does it feel the same?
uh, it feels the same, because boys are boys,
Mm.
right? They they know everything, right? They know. So, and and most boys have this kind of aggression, like they naturally want to be in charge. They want to be a boy. They want to figure things out. So I get that from both of them,
Mm.
just in somewhat different ways.
Mm.
You know, my youngest is very assertive.
Okay.
Tad bit more aggressive. Where my oldest is very passive.
Mm.
But he'll figure out how to get things done. And I've learned that about him. But when I see him sliding a little bit, it's hard for me just to not say anything,
Mm.
to the point where it comes into that, Marcy be like, well, you better say something to him. I'm like, you know what? Today I'm not. Well, you better say something to him because, well, if you want to say, you say something to him. It's okay. You can tell him. But I'm always saying something. So it's that kind of blend
Yeah.
or mixture that we deal with. So
Talk about faith. I know that's an important value for your family.
yeah,
How you make those decisions, how you have introduced your children to that.
yeah. So for the family, I learned, you know, early in life, how important faith was. My grandmother's father was a pastor,
Okay.
Church of God in Christ pastor down south, right in the dirty south. So I grew up listening to my grandmother talk about that, and of course, my paternal grandmother was a very religious woman because her father was a pastor, right, and that just kind of carried on. Um, my mom's family was pretty much the same, just they weren't pastors. Nobody was a pastor, right? But they were from the South as well, Kentucky, and were very much into the church, right? So my parents did a good job at pulling that in and pulling it forward. And my dad worked a lot, so he wasn't able to go. But when he went, he was rolled his sleeves up, got dirty, paid attention, whatever. Um, so from growing up in that environment, you kind of understand how important it is. And you fast forward to when I met my wife, her mom was a pastor
Mm.
in the AME church.
Okay.
And so just meeting her and being around her enforced that.
Mhm.
So I was able to see it from a different side, actual PK. Like this is
Mhm.
PK, and all the rumors about PKs are not always true. It can be a pretty wild bunch, but I I got the one that wasn't. So um, so yeah, that's when it's always been important. And then after we got married and we learned like okay, yeah, we got to make sure we stay tight, with our walk with God and make sure we train our kids the same way. And it hasn't been perfect. We're not perfect parents. We make mistakes. We slip up. We say things we're not supposed to say, but we find our way back to that peace, to God, and just look for that guidance.
Mhm.
I tell my boys all the time, I'm gonna mess something up today. I'm gonna tear something up. I'm gonna make a bad mistake, right? And I do. Like we're human. Nobody's perfect here, but you got to learn how to, you know, if it's something you did to somebody else, ask for forgiveness. If there's some type of sin, you got to ask for forgiveness. And if you mess up something, then you got to figure out how to get around it, right? Um, so that has been an important thing in my household, and it just kind of starts with that faith. We're devout, like every Sunday we're going to church, we're involved. The boys are involved, the wife is involved, I'm involved. We do all types of ministries, the children, I do communication stuff. Marcy works with the kids. So it's part of our lives. It's in that fabric.
Sure. What have your children taught you?
Patience. Patience. Seriously. I mean, I, I, I have always, people have always told me how patient I am. I never thought so. But kids will teach you patience. If you don't have patience, it's a tough sell. Like
Mm.
because kids push you. They will work you or pull that last nerve, right? Even as babies. So that postpartum thing with moms, I think every mother goes through that, right? At some level or another. So as a dad, you got to figure out, if you got a wife who's dealing with this, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the baby who won't stop crying? How do you help? Who do you call? What? How do you change the diaper? Like all these things requires patience
Mm.
and understanding. And when you think you got it or understand it, here comes that next phase in life that tells you you don't have it. And you got to keep learning and you got to keep being patient. Um, you know, one of my sons, my oldest, you know, the good one, right? We told him not to do something, hopped on his bike and did it anyway, right? So, do I go off? Do
Mhm.
I make it a learning experience? Um, the youngest one knocked the vase off the cabinet. $300 vase, right? And not terribly expensive, but it's enough to make me very upset and, you know, clean up all this glass all over the place. And me, I stepped on a glass shard and cut my foot. Now I got to be, it's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a level of patience, or else you drive yourself and everybody else crazy. So that is probably the biggest lesson of parenthood for me, is constantly finding that place of patience and learning how to keep going. You know.
How do you how do you take care of your marriage? Because taking care of two young people are a lot. Serving in the church is a lot.
Yeah.
Working, doing all the grown up things. How do you protect that?
That's hard. Um, but you had to be very, very intentional. Uh, so this week we celebrate 26 years, June 19th. So I've got things planned for us. Last year it slid by,
Mm.
right? And so I said, I can't, we can't do this. Yeah, we have to take time. So, we, took a vacation, last month for last year, right?
That's okay.
You know what I mean? So
You got it in. Still got
we
it
got
in.
it in, right? Um, so this year, we're doing the same, right?
Okay.
So 4 weeks later, we say we're not missing it, right?
Okay.
So to answer your question, it has to be intentional.
Mm.
And because time will go by and situations come up. Kids are doing this, you're working that. This emergency might come up. That thing happens. But if you're not intentional to celebrate each other, um, then that's when things can kind of go south quick.
Mm.
And it becomes not important easily because
Yeah.
everything else is so important. And before you know it, well, a month has gone by, you haven't gone out to dinner, right? Or 2 months has gone by and you haven't done anything. And then you're trying to figure out why you're upset, right? Why am I upset? Well, it not doing what, husband and wife are supposed to do, right? You kind of start falling out of that that loving on each other routine, right? And I can think of a time where we probably got pretty close to that, at some point. So, and, you know, kids go to college. Like Kobe started going when he went to college. We kind of said, okay, this year we're just going to focus on this kid going to college, right? And that's a whole nother ball of emotions and lifestyle change and,
Yeah.
one person not in the house, and, that can be, uh, that's consuming,
Mhm.
right? So going through that, you got to find a way to, I mean, you just have to be intentional. That's the only way you can get through it.
What do you teach the boys about relationships and love?
Um, you have to treat women like queens, your girlfriends, you charisma, be be giving, treat them well, find out if they deserve it. Like, because if you start and then you learn quick, some girls just don't deserve it. Like I, I have no problem telling my boys, leave that, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Don't get too attached. I see it. You don't. Yeah, she look good. Yeah, she got nice eyes, whatever, nice everything else. But you got you got to look past that, buddy. Because you can find yourself. So, yeah, you treat those who deserve it like queens, right? And if you do that, and if it is reciprocated, you got a winner,
Mm.
right? Nobody's talking marriage here, like, but this is where you start. This
Yeah.
is where it should start. So that's what I have taught my boys, and then I lead by example, right? So I buy the white flowers all the time. Love language, like fill up the car with gas, or she likes certain food, make sure she has what she wants, and then it's reciprocated at times, right? So it's not, there's no perfect way, but it's a practice. It's like anything else. You play an instrument or uh, a sport. You
Mhm.
got the relationship is no different. You gotta practice that, and if you do that, then there's a high chance you'll be successful with it. And if not, life happens, right? So you think you might have, and my oldest especially, he's found an amazing girl that he's spending his time with right now. So I just try to put in him like, look, you know, eh, if this works out for you, man, this is awesome, right? But just know, there's stuff around the corner waiting on you. You gotta know how to handle that, So um, chivalry is important,
Mm.
and if it's reciprocated, you got something good.
Masculinity. So
Yeah,
how you help your boys to kinda identify what that looks like, and I
yeah,
think for Black men, is particularly a complicated thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are those conversations like?
Um, so just as basic as it gets, right? Like chapstick and Vaseline on the lips. Like, dude, you know, you, you gotta dab some of that off, right? That kind of thing, right? And I get it. Wintertime, the chap factor is big, right? It's uncomfortable, right? So I like, just that kind of thing. Like, get that off. You don't want to portray, unless, if that's where we going, you gotta fill me in, right? But, for the most part, I just say, look, how the, the long hair, they both have all kind of hair, right? And I have to watch. I'm bald, right? This is a bald guy. I can't say nothing to a kid with a bunch of hair. Like, you ain't got no hair, so I try to make sure that they're portraying themselves um, in a manner that is important to me, to us, and um, I, I don't know if either one of them have issues with how they portray themselves. Um, but I know that that is a real thing. And, um, you don't want to be that guy who somebody thinks that you're easy to run over,
Mm.
right? Um, and you just want to make sure that they are, um, strong enough. And, you know, you got to be careful with the word masculine these days, and I understand that, but you want to be strong enough to not be taken advantage of.
Mhm.
You
All right. Lightning round questions.
Sure.
Easy peasy. Best parenting advice you were ever given?
Ah, best parenting advice would be, like, I think it goes back to um, keeping God first.
Mhm.
That was we heard that a lot when we started having kids, right?
Mhm.
And then the patience part, um, and the understanding, right? So just kind of learning to understand these kids, and by all means, like, you can't parent two kids the same way.
Mm.
That would probably be the most important thing I would ever say to any parent, from my perspective.
Have you ever heard from your children?
Like, physically?
Yes.
Heck yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, oh, from the wife too. Like, I need a, you know, yeah. Like, yeah. Like, so funny, funny thing. Family coming in the house. Dad, I ain't saying nothing. I'm not even gonna answer. Car's in the garage. They don't even know I'm here. Don't have to find me. I'm downstairs. I'm outside. I'm not answering. Oh yeah. Kidding me?
Have you ever received an ugly gift from one of your kids?
Oh yeah.
And your response?
It's nice. Thank you. Appreciate that. Right. You want to use it? Nah, Dad, that's for you. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. You know,
A movie all kids should see.
Boys in the Hood.
Mm. Yeah, why have I heard that one in a while?
Boys in the
Wasn't it?
Hood.
Yeah. Have they seen
Especially
it?
boys. Yeah.
You made sure they saw
Oh
it.
yeah. 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 You got to watch that. Cult classic. Call it what you want. But yeah, I can't watch it without crying.
Still?
Still, I didn't cry when I was a kid watching. Like, man, this is hard, man. This is dope. Nah, you live life, and then you start to see how important that movie is, especially for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Last thing. Love note to the babies. So if they were watching this, what would you want them to know?
I would say, love note now, or one they would open up later.
That's a good question. See? You decide.
I decide. Okay.
Yep.
I would say, dear son, don't be afraid to love, and don't be afraid to fail. Both are inevitable, but it's how you treat your failures that will determine how you will succeed. You're going to fail. Like, I work in sales, right? The rule in sales is you throw out 10, you'll maybe win 3. And it took sales to teach me that, right? I'm an engineer by trade. So engineers are very rigid. There's only one way, and that's the right way. It's black and white. But in sales, you kind of learn to take the losses and keep going. So in my love letter, that would be to my boys or any other kid, or an adult, or for that matter. You got to take those failures, and you got to figure out what you did wrong, or figure out what was done wrong to you or by you, and keep going.
Mm.
Keep going.
Mm.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you for sharing your family with me. Thank you for showing Jesse what beautiful Black men look like and how they show up.
Thank you.
I appreciate you and your family. I'm so glad that I'm a part of it.
Thank you. That goes both ways.
All right.
We've I don't know if you know, but you've done a lot for us.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah. Even before Jack and Jill.
you.
Thank
we are
you.
all set.